Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's video. Today I'm using a product called Twinkling H2Os. It's like this these little jars of paint. And I'm going to do an emboss resist. So I'm going to stamp this penny black sundial stamp multiple times on a piece of watercolor paper. This is Strathmore watercolor paper. And I'm holding it up each time so I can see where I stamped it because I don't want it to overlap, but I want it to be kind of random. So once I'm finished stamping, I'm going to sprinkle it with some white embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat it to set it. Alright, so these paints come in little jars, and all you need is water. So I'm going to spray them with water. You can just wait a few seconds. It'll start to soak into the paint. And if you have a lot of water in there, it paints like a watercolor. If you don't have as much water in there, it paints more like an acrylic. So as it dries, it becomes kind of thicker and more like acrylic is kind of how it works. So I wanted mine to kind of be, I don't know, a combination. I'm trying not to be too particular about the coloring. I'm using kind of a larger brush, and I'm just going over all of the petals. See how it looks a little bit watery right there, and that's okay because it's going to be thick in some areas, thin in some areas. I didn't really want it to be perfectly shaded all the way around. So I'm going to speed this up, and this is I think it's called Solar Gold. That's the color. And I'm just going to color all these petals on all of the flowers that I've heat embossed on this cardstock. Now I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to stop here and tell you what I did next. Okay, now I finished my last flower, and I'm going to take the orange, which is actually called Yellow Rose. Oh, here I'm just showing it to you so you can see how shimmery it is. It's really, really pretty. I know this one's called Gold, but they're all shimmery. So this next one, called Yellow Rose, it's been sitting there with the water, so the paint's a little bit thicker, and I'm going to downsize my brush so it's smaller. I'm going to mix it up, and you can always add more water or let it dry for a minute if you want it to be a little thicker. And I'm going to color in the center part of the flower so that it's a little bit darker, and then because it'll give it a little bit of dimension this way. So I'm starting at the bottom. I'm going to work up a little bit on each petal. And when you're done with these paints, you just let them sit and they dry, and then you can store them back in a container. Alright, so I did that on all the petals. Again, I'm not being too exact here. I'm just kind of painting for fun. Okay, so the next color is called Pink Azalea, and I'm using that same thin brush. And I want it to be pretty thick this time. I'm going to actually cover the gold that I put on there. And I had a little bit too much there, so I wiped off just a little bit. And I'm just going to color it, not too worried about the area, just color the whole thing one color with that pink azalea. I'm going to do this on all the petals. Alright, once that's done, I'm going to work on the centers, and it's very watery at this point, you can see, but it is resisted by the embossing powder, and I'm just going to color this outside area. This stamp is really pretty because it's divided into so many pieces, so it's easy to kind of tackle when you want to color it. So then I went back to my gold and just colored the entire center gold. And then back to the Yellow Rose, I'm just doing a little bit in the center. And then I'm going to take my Pink Azalea and just add a dot in the middle. very forgiving. You can wipe it off with a tissue and start over pretty easily. Alright, so here it is. You can see all the different parts shimmer. All the colors. Okay, now I'm going to work on the background, and I'm using 2 different kinds of blue. The first one is kind of a purpley blue. It's called Blue Ice. And I'm using my big brush, and I'm just trying to get coverage here, just all over. I'm not too worried about you know, shading or anything like that. I'm just doing an all over color. And I'm going to take the blue, the other blue, and I'm going to put it on top of this, so you'll still be able to see the purple underneath, but it'll be very subtle. We'll just give it some interest so it's not all one color. Okay, now I'm going to take the other blue, which is called Sky Blue, and I'm using my smaller brush, and I'm just going to paint the outside edges of the petal. And this is where my darkest color is going to be, and it's going to cause my flowers to pop. And I want my paint to be fairly thick because I want it to be pretty dark. Alright, once I've outlined it, I'm going to actually wash my brush off so it's just water at this point. And I start in the purple and I work my way towards the blue, and I kind of pull the blue out just a little bit into the purple. But you don't want to blend too much because then you'll end up with one color. And you definitely want to be able to see the purple plus the blue and make it darker on the edge of the petals. But here I'm just working with the water. I'm just doing this section by section just to make it easier. That way it doesn't dry. But even if it does dry, you're still going to be able to move that paint around. I'm going to speed the rest of this up. Just the blue there, and now I'm working with the water. These paints are really, really easy to use because once you lay it down, you can always go back and change it. The water just reactivates it. And I kind of like to take my time so that way I don't have to worry about it drying and being permanent. And once it's dry, it sets dry, so you don't have to spray any fixative on it or anything like that. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the coloring. So you can see here, it's all shimmery. The blue, the purple, everything. Looks really pretty in real life. So I'm going to let that dry. And then when I come back, I decided I wanted my flowers to pop just a little bit more. So I took a Stampin' Up! Marker, and there's a space in between these, the out edge of this petal and the inside. You can see here I made a mistake, and it was so forgiving. I just added some water and the marker went away and it was perfect again. So that's why I love this stamp. There's just so many little areas, and there's also a little area in the middle in between the white embossed sections, and that way I was able to put some black marker in there too. Okay, now I'm going to work on my sentiment, which is from a Hero Arts set called Everyday Sayings. I use it all the time. And I'm going to stamp this on vellum in Versamark, and then I'm going to black emboss it, and I cut the strip. Now I'm going to adhere this to a piece of folded cardstock, and this cardstock is Hero Arts. It's black on one side and white on the other, so it's actually made for a card, which is awesome. So I actually trimmed my panel back just a little bit so that I would have a black matting on the outside. And I'll take my strip and I'll place it, I kind of mark it so that I can cut it on one side. And then I'm going to adhere this and hide my glue dot with some rhinestones. Now these rhinestones come in a huge set, and I love them because there's a lot of one size. And so I'm going to kind of lay it there and figure out where it needs to be. Now I colored it with a Copic marker, which is great because you can always match your rhinestone to your card by coloring it with any of the markers that you have. So I keep a lot of these clear rhinestones on hand. So then what I did is I took a glue dot and I put it on right behind the rhinestone. That way you can't see the glue dot. And then I just adhered it right across there and trimmed off the excess. And that's it. It's really shimmery. I like it a lot. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.